Gotta shake it out. His first show jitters, you know. He gotta get it out.
You're listening to CRBRadio.com. Words and opinions you're about to hear.
Oh, you gotta get your mic over by you.
Yeah? Is there a way?
Face Jimmy.
There's a way to do this?
I think so.
Really? Oh!
Hey, Dave.
It's like a beauty
you need that
chair.
mic in front of you, Dave.
What's that?
That mic.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
Might need it.
Much better. Am I different on the camera now, or? I just dropped about 3 inches.
So that it doesn't look like I'm drinking.
CRBRadio.com. The words and opinions you are about to hear are of the hosts and do not reflect the management, sponsors, or affiliates that come of K Radio Broadcast.
Chickadee check. Microphone check 1. Oh,
What's
are
up?
we?
What's up?
Oh, hey.
Hey, hey.
Oh my
Hear it out in the real world?
We're gonna need headphones.
Hold on. All right, so I'm going to fade the music out, and he's going to switch it.
Oh, this is my time to talk?
Oh, howdy,
we're
howdy,
on.
howdy.
All right.
An
all
auspicious
right.
start. Welcome to the 401 show, the
What's
first
up, everybody?
episode of the 401 show. And what's today, January 17th?
Yep.
We're not
sure
even doing
is.
years because the year does not matter.
There it is.
So, the 401 show, you guys are new to the show because the show is new. I guess we are all new to show. I want to go around. We're going to kind of meet everyone. We're going to talk about a few things. But I also want to frame the show, too. You're trying to figure out what headphones are for you?
Yeah, and I guess I don't need
You
headphones.
don't actually need them.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's, well,
No.
You don't need to mess
We
with
don't
I had them
actually
wrapped
need
around
them,
this
so-
because we don't need them.
Oh,
Great. Okay,
Well,
cool.
They looked like they made us look
They
like
made us look
pilots.
professionals.
Put 'em down.
Yeah.
There you go. Put them around the bottom.
Put your
please,
toys
Steve.
away.
Got
Oh
it.
my goodness gracious! Quit telling me what to do.
Hey, I'm just
Eric.
trying to.
Yep.
I had 'em
Nice
set
and
up.
easy.
I had
So
'em set
how's
up.
everyone
How's it going,
doing?
everybody?
It's really nice to.
Ask these guys.
It's really nice to
Doing pretty
gather with
great.
you.
Yes, it's my first time in Detroit.
How do
Hey,
you like
there
it?
you
All
go.
the way here from St. Louis, which
Welcome.
is 12 hours away, but I love it so far.
All right, well, introduce
Detroit
yourself to
rocks
our
the
listeners.
house.
Yeah, tell us your name. What is
Okay,
your name?
so my name,
What's
my
your
my internet
stage
name,
Yeah,
my
'cause
stage
My
name.
real name's not coming out.
Yeah, not today at least. But my name on the internet and on YouTube and everywhere else is Meegs B. And
Alright.
so yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I've had that channel for 2 years now, and really I'm just a lover of truth. I fervently research the truth, try to fervently get it out to people, no matter what the truth is. I just try to learn it.
As wacky
And
as it might sound.
as wacky as it might sound, I just try to wrap my head around it and try as best I can to educate people and open new doors, dig new rabbit holes every day. And there's just
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm happy to be here, and Detroit freaking rocks.
I
Doing a
also
golf
got
clap.
you a Detroit hat when we were at the gas station a few minutes ago. But in the time I checked out with all of the drinks,
Which were wrong, by the way.
4 people rolled in.
And
I
bought
wasn't going to wait in line, but there was an
Oh.
awesome Detroit hat. I got
Ooh.
had your name on it.
Well, I am a collector of hats
I
too.
know. And I doubt, I don't want to speak for you, but will we ever see you without a hat?
No, not on this show.
All right.
No.
I don't think I've done it myself, period. On or off the air.
But
Me-
anyway, I should also say a huge element to my story, and probably a huge element to why I'm here, is I was a militant atheist for most of my life, like crazy militant, super atheist. And a couple years ago, I had a literal come to Jesus moment. So now I'm a born again Christian, And so yeah,
Yay.
that's it's still awesome, but new and interesting for me to say. It still feels almost weird to say that as
Well, good
living
for you.
living
It
as a
takes a
militant
while.
atheist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I'm coming from. That's my perspective, and yeah, so.
All right, so let's go. So interesting you brought that up. So let's put that on the shelf for a 2nd. So you ended up finding God because you were knee-deep in conspiracies and they led you somewhere. We have very similar stories in that. In fact,
Yeah.
you and I are on the same page. So let's keep going around the table. Tony.
Yeah.
Tony Schwartz.
How's it going, man?
Former head of Freedom Works.
Yep. Here at Cave
One of the
Radio.
one of the best shows I've ever. I'm honored that you joined us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
give
I'm
us,
really.
give us your
The Brightmore
minute.
Brad
How
Pitt.
did you end up here?
All right.
Not
So
took
I-
telegraph south. I mean, how did you end up
Yeah.
here?
I'm really excited to be here. You know, I'm a big fan of you, Dave. Okay, so you coming on to the cave and the show you had prior, and to be part of the show, I'm very excited to be here. But mine was, you know, coming onto the cave was meeting Eric. You know, Eric and I went to school, so he invited me, and it kind of just went, you know, just kind of the cave starting up and coming on and creating a show. I was talking to him the one day, and I'm like, you know what, man? I said, I'm tired of screaming at the TV. I see all this bullshit. You can switch from channel to channel, get a totally different story of what you're watching. And I find myself screaming at the TV. And I find myself talking to people around me like I've discovered whatever, right? Like, dude, you got to know that this is happening. And people don't want to hear it. Most people do not want to hear you go off about why there's fluoride in your water. You know what I mean? So I
Some
found
people
myself.
get really excited about it.
Well, yeah, and you find that's awesome when you find that person, you know. So essentially, that's how I started Freedom Works, and that was going to start out as a guns, you know, Second Amendment show and
Guns, freedom in America.
Freedom America, you know, having a good time. And one of the quick interviews was with you, you know, and opened doors for me into a whole different rabbit hole, essentially. You know what I mean?
Level of
Yeah,
conspiracy.
yeah, and watching your film from a regular guy's point of view, and watching it from a regular guy, you know, that's what I took from the film. I'm like, well, this guy is not, you know what I mean? It's not like a lot of the things that you see on the internet, you know. And a big part was like, say, like a guy like Alex Jones. When I first heard him, I'm laughing at the guy, you know. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Yeah, I think he said he was 42. He was younger than I was a couple of years. I'm like, well, he's younger than I am. And he seems to know all this stuff, and I just started looking. And I'm like, whoa, you know, it's there. If you start looking at it,
Well, how do you
it's
know
there.
what you were looking at is real versus what's on television, for instance? Like, why are you so certain of this that you actually take time out of your day to do your own show, to come be part of our...
I had a dream. Mine was a dream. And in that dream, me and what it seemed like was my first wife, you know, here it is, we're walking through this... it's kind of, say, like an outdoor party, right? And this dude's standing up there, and he's like, hey, man, come on in. And he's joining in, kind of one of those kind of like cult leader type of thing, but I didn't feel like it at the time. Anyway, in this dream, long story short, they walked her the other way and walked me one way, where the way I went was all partying and having a great time and chicks running around and all this. And they were whisking her over to this other area. Anyway, long story short, end of that dream, I ended up walking into that house, and she was absorbed by demons. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about horned, red-headed, and whatever it was, this door was closing as I was looking in, and I asked for Jesus. And I woke up clutching my chain, and I haven't taken this chain off since.
Hey.
I woke up speaking the Lord's Prayer. I went over. That marriage was dissolving. But I went through, and I went to her bed and to my son's and prayed over them, and I haven't been the same since.
What a cool story,
We're
man.
going to definitely get into that. All right. So we've got our three believers here. Let's meet the non-believers. Yet, in a lot of ways, you guys are going to be the guinea pigs of an experiment, a 45-day experiment. Because I figure we'll end up doing 45 shows this year. What? Me? Talk? Oh, go to her first.
Oh, hey.
Don't whisper, just scream it out. So, first, we're going to go to Kelly Jean. Do you go by Kelly Jean, Kelly, KJ?
Either or any.
Anything?
Yeah.
How about Mary? Is that all right?
No. Kelly, Jean, KJ.
I like KJ.
Okay.
I'm
cool.
going KJ.
All right.
That's just
I
me
totally have
personally.
a personality for each name too. It's pretty wild.
Are
There you
you
go.
like Beyonce? You've got different creatures that come out depending on your performance. Like
Yeah, actually.
all right.
I'm on meds for this.
Exorcism candidate.
Personality disorder right here. So each one has a different belief too. No, I'm just
Oh,
joking. I'm
there
just
you go.
kidding. I got into conspiracy stuff just by watching crazy things on the YouTube, going down that hole.
So that's how
Yeah.
we sort of hooked up because I was
Yeah.
actually interviewed by you on your show.
Yeah.
And off air, you were starting to talk about like you were looking into some of these things.
Oh, yeah.
And you were aware of some of them. And maybe you are where we were at one point, which is you're starting to put like there's something weird going on in this world,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you hadn't completely figured out what it is yet. I think
Right.
is that fair to
Oh,
say
yeah.
of where you are?
Definitely.
Do you consider yourself open-minded?
Extremely open minded, yeah. I mean, look at me. No, I'm just joking.
I just got back from a church choir recital. All right, we're going to get back to you in a
Okay.
second. Eric Shaltus,
Hey.
he is the when I say it's 3 against 3, 2 of the, I'm just calling you guys non-believers like you're some protected class in U.S. citizenship. And the guy behind the camera, Jimmy. Like you guys are essentially, you're on the dark side. We're on the light side.
What is that?
The good force, dark. I don't know what you want to call it.
This isn't Star Wars, you know. There's no.
Well, I will say
In a
that
way, in
I
a
was
lot-
raised a certain way, but I go against everything that I was taught.
Raised.
Being, like my mother's like, I didn't raise you like that. So I do battle forces of good and evil on a daily
No, and look, when I
basis.
say
Rebellion.
I'm making,
Oh, yeah.
everyone's got. There was a quote by someone somewhere where where does good and evil? Where is the line drawn? We're sort of raised to think that it's made up by national borders. Oh, the Russians are bad, the Americans are good. But if you're born in Russia, you have a different opinion. So it's not national borders. So maybe it's families, or are there
Yeah.
good families and evil families? Are there evil towns, good religions, bad?
Well, and there's some people that just take religion and their families and they just become evil and judgmental.
Yeah, look,
and, it's
religion, which is a
awful.
man-made institution.
I've found that the more religious you are, the more.
Judgy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm
Not in all
I'm-
cases, but
Not in all cases,
you know.
but I see. I run a charity. I'm a president of a local charity, Motown Meals, and I'm not trying
Yeah.
to plug anything or anything, but
But
Plug
that's
it.
MotownMeals.com.
we went to the local church, which is also a food kitchen. They help out and give food, and they were like, "Well, what denomination are you guys?" And I'm like, "What does it matter? We're feeding people that need help. We don't ask if you're Catholic or Protestant or Baptist when you walk through the door. We just give you a meal and you wish you a good day." And they were like, "Well, you can't advertise here," and all this stuff. And it was like, you're trying to help people. I'm not, and it's just, so I've found that the more religious you are, and especially towards Catholicism and the Catholic, it's like it's either your way or the
F.
highway. Yeah, it's either our way or the highway. We don't want anything to do with you. When in all actuality, you're all helping the same people. The same dudes that are at St. Christine's are the same people that are at Motown Meals on that Sunday.
Right.
You know what I mean? So why not work together? But
That's what turned me off on Christianity for so long. The Christian infighting and the judgment, and
Because
it's like,
I've noticed they are somewhat a little kind of bitchy with each other, especially the ones that are involved in a religion.
yeah,
But what I was going to get down to is someone, I don't remember who it was offhand, had made a quote that the line between good and evil actually goes down the middle of every person's heart.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
It's very true because we all have.
51,
I don't
49
care
or
who
whatever.
you are, or how popular you are, how famous you are, how good the world thinks you are. Everybody has got both good and evil in them.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And
believe
it's
that.
sort of like a sub-layer of a spiritual war that is going to be kind of woven into the background of all our shows. Because if this first show had a title, which it actually does somewhere, and it has something to do with being at a disco parlor. Is that the right? We got the lighting. So
Either that or there's a poltergeist in here.
if this show has a
You
title.
never got to me, man. You went skipped right over me.
Did we? Oh, I thought we already
Yeah.
met you.
Here we go. Going to your.
Oh, I thought. All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, you never gave me
Any other charities you're
We-
involved in?
No, you were talking about how Jimmy and I were on the dark side, and then we just got on a tangent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to
So,
give you guys a
and
chance to
if-
respond
if
to that.
I am a Star Wars fan, so I do lean towards the dark side. So I'm cool with that analogy.
great.
But so I have been of the belief that yes, there is a higher power out there. What is it? I don't know. Do I think it's some dude with flowing sheets and a long, amazing beard and everything? No, I don't. You know, it could be Alanis Morissette for all I know, like in the movie Dogma.
How funny.
You know what I mean?
And that will happen. We were
So-
talking about her playing God in a movie
Yeah.
on the ride
Just
up here.
on the way here.
Yeah. So
There
I-
are,
I'm the-
there are
like-
no
Don't
coincidences.
you think?
my sister is a medium, and
Funny girl.
she believes in the paranormal and all that stuff. And I'm the kind of guy that until that ghost comes up and taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, Eric, what's going on?" I ain't gonna believe it. And at that moment, you're gonna see an Eric-sized hole in the wall. And it's gonna scare the bejesus out of me, and I'm gone. But you know, I do think there's something out there. I do think there's a higher power and all that stuff. But I think the Bible, and you're a Bible guy. You know, I think the Bible is a bunch of fairy tales passed down from generation to generation, just like the Grimm fairy tales and tales of Paul Bunyan and, you know, Babe the Blue Ox. We talked about it last week, you know, the Nephilim and all these. I've read the Bible. I had to because I was on a paranormal show. So I was getting people throwing Bible verses at me and telling me about all these things that I had no clue what they were. So I went and studied it and read the Bible, and I know I can pick up a fiction book anywhere that's just as good.
I totally get that because I was totally where you are. And this is like even after, because it was February 14th of 2011. That was the last normal day I ever had.
Is that when you finally saw that video and everything clicked? And
Nothing clicked, but that is where the turmoil began because there was a little. It's in AGD1
The first
for
one.
Anatomy of a Great Deception, where I'm folding laundry or something, and the CNN clip comes on of George Bush in that Sarasota classroom on 9/11,
Oh, yeah.
and I just had a question. You know, Dad raised a curious guy. You know, we take on many, not all of the traits of our parents, or sometimes the antithetical traits of our parents. And I saw this clip on probably CNN or one of the mainstream media programs, and they were talking about preparations for the coming 10-year anniversary of 9/11, which was coming up in about 6 months or so. And they just showed that, you know, that old cliche video of Bush with his book upside down reading My Pet Goat. Things like that did not mean a thing to me at the time. But I just had a question of why did the Secret Service not get him out of that school? I mean, this is all... Now, I would later find out the Secret Service actually does two things, which is going to tie into this show very much. One of them we know is protect the president, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You guys know what their other job is?
the Treasury money.
Yeah, they're sort of the guardians of the money supply. I
Of
mean,
the
they
Federal
handle the
Reserve?
counterfeiting, which is very
And it
interesting
even has to do with
because
money.
you've got the Secret Service surrounding our president, and who are they really working for? The Federal
Federal
Reserve
Reserve.
Bank. But is the Federal Reserve federal? I mean, where are we? Do we know what the Federal Reserve is?
It's private. It's a
Are we
private
on this
bank.
level yet?
I am.
I'm not.
Yeah.
All right. Because next week, we're going to show you how the Federal Reserve Bank, which is not federal, it is a private bank.
Right.
And we're going to run through an example next week of a little 1,000-person nation. And we're going to play out what happens in 50 years when I'm the banker. And I'm going to show you how...
You did this with me.
Were you in on that show?
Yeah.
I want to redo it because there's a few things we left. And this is really where, I mean, some people call them the Illuminati or the establishment or
Kelly's boobs.
the 1%, the New World Order.
The cabal.
the Knights of Templar, the Cabal, the Hidden Hand.
I got the Illuminati diamond on my back.
Yeah.
There's been a name for these guys throughout all of history, which is sort of odd. And going back to, and I am going to reference the Bible. For a long time, it was the last place I would look because I thought exactly like you did, Eric, that this thing is a book of myths, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
Especially
what they told us.
The Old
right?
Testament is ridiculous, but whatever.
Maybe it is. But if you have an open mind, I thought it was ridiculous too until I found something. Eventually, the 9/11 research, I went looking for an answer. Why did the Secret Service leave Bush in this classroom? Never found one. The official answer from the White House was they did not want to scare the kids by pulling them out of the school.
And you brought this up too in your movie. Actually, is you had no clue where the next plane was coming from. He was publicly on record at that school.
Yeah, it had been on a schedule for 3 days.
Why not take out the president with one of your planes? You knew where he was going to be, and you're going to kill a bunch of kids too. What better way to further your cause?
Yeah.
So-
Hey, Mohammed Atta, why don't you make a right-hand turn and fly to Florida and just blow? Because he's sitting at that school. Let's just
Unprotected. What is
the balance of power in the world is at stake. They're worrying about not alarming some kids who practice fire drills all the time.
Right.
That something didn't compute. Because the minute that call came in to the Secret Service room, and there was a backstaging room in that school, there were about a dozen agents and some other press, Ari Fleischer, press secretary. Someone in that room decided or knew that there was nothing to worry about. First clue that there was some sort of pre-knowledge and not. And I didn't put, after looking for this, I wasn't all of a sudden a conspiracy theorist. This took the questions led to more questions, and that first night, I remember I walked out and Betsy's there with her mom, and I'm just, I just came across some websites that think 9/11 was an inside job and that Bush knew about it, and we all commented on how far out this was. My life was never the same because I was every night doing just research. I don't know, did anyone hit that groove where it's late at night, you've got your jaw on the ground, you're smoking pot or you're smoking cigarettes or whatever it is, something's going on, your blood is flowing, your adrenaline.
Oh, yes.
And Betsy's pregnant with my son at the time. And the little advice I'd like to give. If you're just starting to wake up to stuff like this and you're married, do not go wake up your wife, especially if she's pregnant, at 2 a.m. to tell her the CIA
Babe,
was
guess
involved.
what?
Yeah, exactly. You'll never believe this.
You hear the devil for sure then.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think actually a spiritual war unfolded in my home, which we're not going to get into today. But one thing we're going to do on
bring
this
the comic relief to this show, by the way.
good.
I'm hoping.
And at the end of the day,
It'll be mostly making fun of myself, but
we're talking about some things that might be uncomfortable if the first time you're hearing them. Or if cognitive dissonance is at work in you, you might even repel them. It is not an easy thing for the mind to accept a fact that requires you to reestablish your worldview.
Right.
The things that we grow up believing. So by the time we're 18, we've got this worldview, and when we find something that's way outside of that, we tend to do one of two things. We either dismiss it as, oh, well, he was crazy, or this is an aberration, yada, yada, dismissing it. Or, I think for a lot of the people that are at this table, you follow it, and it actually does lead somewhere. Not just to a mess of ugly conspiracies, deception, and lies, which there was a time where I would be outside having a glass of wine with Betsy, and we would just be talking, like, would our life not be much better if we didn't know any of this? Mm-hmm. This was before we'd figured out the Bible link, which we're going to get to. But it took 11 months, and I was able to research full time because I was about to start a business. And that business just never got started. This actually became my life, which presents a series of problems if you've got kids and stepkids and a wife and, a normal life. But that was the end of my normal life. and it sucked for a while. Then later that year, there was a moment. We'll talk about the moment later, but it finally hit me, and it was probably after the 8th, 9th, 10th guy, and I've now interviewed these people myself. I've listened to hundreds of testimonies where everything from Freemasonic defectors, Illuminati family people that have, flipped.
Mm-hmm.
There is this group of people, and a lot of them, that have this incredibly crazy story where I can find no motivation for them to say it other than it being the truth. Because there's no money in it. There's no book deals for them. There's no movies. You're going to be ridiculed by your friends. Your social status is going to get screwed up. The fabric of your entire life, your friendships, they're going to change. I mean, you and I talked about that yesterday, Meegs.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
You're a
this
weirdo.
is not the kind of glory and attention seekers looking for. There's a lot of other ways to do that.
Yeah.
Like wearing an Illuminati T-shirt through a Christian Bible shirt. No. So,
Breaking the law.
Yeah.
Breaking the law.
Yeah, being into conspiracy theories doesn't help you get chicks or dudes or
No,
whoever you're
dude,
looking for.
killed.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's no good reason for anybody to talk about this stuff unless you have to, unless you know something and you have to get it out. Or
I think for a lot of people, it's the same as I watch Ancient Aliens.
Me too.
I pay
All the time.
I'm like, wow,
If I
that's
could
pretty
grow hair, I'd
interesting.
grow my hair like him.
For me, it's more of the places that are
George
built.
Kakalakalis.
Papadopoulos.
My point is if you were into, say, the alien culture, right? You can get deep into it, right? Next thing you know, you're seeing Bigfoot. You can go all the way. But this is a whole different path. When you tend to you start to get pissed off when you're like, dang, they put all these traps in front of me and I fell for them all. That's kind of how I felt because all the things I talked about earlier being, just a crazy teenager. I fell for every trapping, when the book was brought to me earlier, but I was a bad student. I went to a
Book being the Bible.
Yeah, well,
When has a Bible ever been more than 50 feet away from like any human in the civilized world?
It's
there-
always
It doesn't
is there
matter
one
if
in
you're
this room?
traveling, if you're hotel. I'll bet you there's one in this room.
I don't think so. Someone got a Bible.
There was
Did
one-
you-
there was
did
someone
I got
sitting
one on my
here
phone.
earlier.
Did you go
guess.
through my work bag?
No, I'll go through your crap.
Yeah, anyone can get it up on their phone.
Did you
real
go through
quick.
KJ's
But
purse? Well, that's it, actually.
I was scared
Which
when
is
I found
odd
it
because
there.
that's a prediction that's in the Bible. This book that has a characteristic, which I did not know it had. I'd only heard rumors that, they predict a couple of things, but they're no more accurate than, who's not Rasputin? Who's the other guy? The
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus,
Shakespeare?
thank you.
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare, yeah. Yeah, close. So, where was I going with that? Shakespeare, Nostradamus. Oh, it's
The
got a
Bible being
characteristic
predictable.
where it predicted the future before. And it didn't just get a couple of things right and a couple of things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
At my count right now, and I'm only going to go off of the ones that I've gone in and analyzed myself with my own eyes, reading the empirical data. Do you guys know what I mean by empirical?
Where it
The source information, not the regurgitation or the summary by a guy,
okay,
but by the guy that was on the spot, the guy that saw it, that documented it, or the actual source data. So there is, of probably the 200 or 300 I've looked at, every single one of them has occurred with a level of accuracy that is hidden from a superficial reading. You won't get it from just quote unquote reading the Bible.
okay. See, that's where I like for Eric saying, because I felt that way. I have a tough time defending a story. Like you saying, okay, say this prediction happened. I'm not strong enough with my teaching to say, well, no, Eric, you're wrong because this. So
Right.
that's where I'm the student here, because I know the research that you've done, and I'm like, well, hold on, I would never pick that up out of the Bible because, like Old Testament, the lineage, it's very tough to get through as the average reader. So, a friend offered me the gospel. He said, just go there. You know what I mean? Just so you can get in the book and something that you can read through, and that's something that I have to do as far as I don't know it word for word. I don't know
you can't.
all
You
the
couldn't
important
quote.
verses.
Who can you?
Yeah, I couldn't defend the argument.
Yeah, you can say go to Ephesians 14:36.
Yeah, those
you know,
guys
yeah.
that do that, I don't. There's
Yeah.
a few passages that I remember. Like one of the taglines for this show is "We're an Ephesians 5:11 operation."
Yeah.
And that Ephesians 5:11 says, "Do not participate
Hey,
in the
what?
unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead uncover them." Eric,
How did I pick Ephesians out of my ass, and then you quote?
I don't know. Why did you bring up that Alanis Morissette was a god?
Because she's Dogma.
She
in the
played it in
movie.
Dogma.
All right, so last week,
Think I'd make something like that up?
last week when I remember you and I made you two record something,
Yeah.
okay?
Oh,
I can't
yeah, I
remember what it
forgot
was.
about that.
I can't remember what it was because I was
Because I said, look,
edibles.
weird stuff's going to happen. Like, things are going to be happening that, yes, we may be able to assign this to random chance.
Right.
And really, everything we've learned is based on randomness.
Right.
That a random singularity exploded from nothing to become the universe. And randomly, atoms started to mix with each other in a way that not just, a female and a male version of a species grew simultaneously, able to duplicate itself, but it happened all over the planet with thousands of species and plants and things like that.
Races. Everything.
Now,
you know?
and that's what we're taught. The theory of evolution. I used to debate creationists like you are an idiot for believing this mythical book. And I was doing this into my 40s, so this is still relatively new territory for me.
What's the comedian? He's dead now, but he's got that.
Sam
George
Kinison,
Carlin?
No, not Sam Kinison.
George Carlin?
No. Let me. I'll
the
think
black guy, Dick
No,
Gregory.
it's a white dude.
Bill
and-
Hicks.
Yes.
Yo.
He's like, yay.
Yeah.
As he
Bam,
walks
Meegs.
through the
Woo.
valley of whatever. And, you never hear Jesus say, and there was a Tyrannosaurus Rex walking down the path. You know what I mean? And he's like, so his point is dinosaurs. Because they're not in the Bible.
Are they?
I don't
Are
know.
they not?
Are they part of the Nephilim? I'm just asking.
Well, the
Beasts.
Bible talks
Bigger.
about
Talk of beasts.
there is a beast. There's a waterborne beast called a Leviathan, and then there's a landborne beast called a. Someone help me.
I don't know.
Brontosaurus. I'm kidding.
Chimera? Or
No, it
These
has a
sound
name.
like pills for blood pressure or something. Don't they?
The Bible references two types of giant beasts, and even talked about how one of them breathes fire.
Ooh.
So there's something written 2,000 years ago. Now again, maybe that's
Metaphoric.
metaphor, rumors, legends, but maybe there is truth in legends.
Right.
Because what does the Bible say? And this is why I had a hard time with it. Because I just spent 40 years having evolution pounded into my head. I'd never seen a scientific reproduction of evolution. And let's get something straight when we talk about evolution. There's three types of evolution, all right? There is an evolution we all agree happens, which I call microevolution. That is creatures adjusting to their terrain, all right? Japanese people in the East getting fatty cheeks to deal with the cold. Okay, we can see that happening. And it's within species. It's not cross. That one, personally, I accept. That I think we've observed. Then the second type is macroevolution, which basically says, and I am going to say it in a ridiculous way, but this is what a scientist in a non-ridiculous way says, is that at some point a banana morphed into what we are. Like eventually a banana will become a human given enough time. Okay?
fish.
And
That's ridiculous.
it argues that information can organize itself. This is what evolution argues. And organize itself in unbelievable ways, which everything... Now, so the theory of evolution versus the law, that means it's been proven, of thermodynamics. And the second codicil of the law of thermodynamics is Entropy. You guys know what entropy is?
Like,
Dying.
like if you don't use your muscles, they
That's
Atrophy.
atrophy. Okay.
So entropy is it's observable in our universe in everything. And that's that things get disorganized. Everything disorganizes. It breaks down. It does not build. You clean your garage and you check back a week later, it's only moving in one direction. It's getting messier again. Your garage will never organize itself. Nor will your garage, think about this, because when we say we evolved, and the third part of the evolution is the creation, like at the moment where life enters something. But think about what are the odds that your garage could organize itself into a working Mercedes-Benz. And thank you, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.
If the snow hits, come by next
Take
door.
care.
Thanks a lot, Kim.
Our professional photographers just left the building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did. So you're never going to see your garage organize itself into a car. It's got windshield wipers and headlights and
Well, damn it.
and a car is so much more simple, not just than the human body, but we got to go all the way back to Darwin because he comes out in 1859, give or take a few years, with his book on species. And it was a theory back then. By his own words, his theory would be completely discounted. I don't think it's an accident that he was a 33rd degree Freemason. So was his father. And the minute he comes out with his book on species, on the evolution of humanity, there was almost this coordinated marketing effort from some of the top people at a lot of the most prestigious universities at the time. One of them being a guy named T.H. Huxley. Name ring a bell?
Yep.
He just happens to be the
Father?
grandfather of
Oh.
Aldous
Yes.
Huxley.
Julian.
And so this is the first time you're going to hear, like, there's some families that keep popping up in history in the strangest of places. Because here's Aldous Huxley talking about what the future is going to look like. And what was his big book?
Not
Was he-
Brave New World, but
Brave New
No,
World.
yeah, Brave New World. And
Yeah.
not Atlas
Oh.
Shrugged. That was Ayn
No, it's
Rand.
Brave New World.
Brave New World. Okay.
Where
that's
he
right.
talked about,
Somas.
essentially, he talked about the world we live in today. That television, and he's talking about this before there's really television, there's only radio, but that we are going to be completely brainwashed. Medicines are going to keep us dumb. They're going to poison us with the water, and they're going to lead us into a new world order.
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost like he knew about the plan. And there's a close association with the organized evil in this world. It is not random. It is organized. And I will go to my grave
Oh, yeah.
before. So we're going to find out who's organizing it.
Bilderbergs?
Well, there's a lot of names.
Right.
In fact, Adam Weishaupt himself, he said this in the 1780s. And he said, we will never operate under our own banner. Our organization is sovereign. That is, you make an oath to this in the secrecy of our little group, and that supersedes your oaths to your constitution, to the flag, to your government, to... That's what these guys are indoctrinated into. It's one of the ways the Illuminati... And I maybe want to come up with a different word because that's become a cliche, but...
You could just call them
The
them.
internationalists. At that
just
time,
do
they,
this.
they
We'll
referred
say
to
anything.
themselves as internationalists, right?
Right,
When
the
when
international
when you
bankers.
come up a little bit, above that.
And
Or
their
in
goal
time.
is they are trying to bring the world into a one-world government, into a new world order. And that's not even a conspiracy theory anymore. That is well publicized, and it's out there for anyone
Absolutely.
to see. And it's just interesting. And these people praise Lucifer. They don't even hide it. You can find. So we're talking about families like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And,
But they do hide it. I mean, most people don't know it.
they
You think because people don't venture to find it, or you're never introduced to like a show like this that opens your mind to say, "Hey, well, what about these guys?"
So you can start by do some Google lookups if you're listening on the Rothschild family. look up the women. And for instance, like the Rothschild mother, and I want to say, I forgot her name offhand, the first name.
Lady.
Heidi, random.
But I've got about 5 photographs of her, and she has a different pin on every time, and they are all different versions of a Baphomet.
Okay.
That's one way she's out there saying, this is who, that she is showing.
You'll see symbolism in music videos.
Oh, big
all
time.
Oh,
that.
that's
music.
easy. It's
yeah.
It's when you see the people you don't expect, like the Queen of England doing
Ooh.
it, where things start to get strange.
Right. It's totally cool when you see like Ozzy, right? And you think
You
this-
expect it now.
I mean, but
because
you
that's
would
what
for
rock is, right?
what you would think, say like with that or like a crazy.
I mean, you can
know,
show
like
your
Slayer.
shirt now to the camera. I wanted to get a couple there.
Yeah.
Oh,
before.
yeah.
But just saying, say like you wouldn't.
But I asked her if she was in the Illuminati, and she said no.
I have a matching
But of course,
tattoo.
they lie. How can we trust them? We'll find
Take a
out.
look at me
Yeah,
now.
it's. I don't know where I was headed. My point is that are we to believe then, say like a Henry Ford would have been in that same group?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when you get into say when you're dealing with Edison and Morgan, because that's kind of what woke me up about our nation was it's on the History Channel, the men who built America. At that time, I actually looked. I don't know how to say this. I had more of a Democratic voting record. Okay, up until that movie, and here I should say that movie solidified it. My feeling about that. I'm like, look at these guys. These are the robber barons. This is why the world's messed up. Blah blah blah. Went into a whole deal. Was arguing with people because there was elections going on then. And I voted for Obama and got chastised by everybody around me. You're blah blah blah. You're gonna take the world out, right? Same thing with Trump. I mean, the media is crazier with Trump, but people in general were. There was a lot of negativity around Obama, right? So if you're open that you voted for him. You're easy pickings. The same easy pickings you are that you voted Trump, right? Now you're an asshole because you went this
And by the way,
way.
if you don't vote, you're also easy picking.
But how is it-
exercising your lip?
My point
really,
is
we have freedom.
How is a middle-aged Detroit guy switch within a few years of that? Other than my age, like you get to a certain age, you have kids, you look at life a little differently, right? You start to, whoa, hold on a second, that ain't cool, this ain't cool. What I thought was cool isn't cool, right? How do you make that big of a change? It isn't just from YouTube. You know what I mean? Something
No, that's why
happened.
there's got to be something inside. And we were talking about this yesterday, Meegs, where even if you want to study the Bible, you can. But there's almost like a key that's needed to unlock it. Some people, I think, call it the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost. Or there's a level of understanding that is, I believe, it's supernatural.
But the book tells you, doesn't it? It tells you not to be weak in your reading. I believe that somewhere in the book says that it's your responsibility to be able to read through this.
Is that what we're going to call it now?
Well,
It
the
is.
book.
I mean,
you
it's-
have to do that every time we say
It's not just any book, that's for darn sure. But
Yeah.
we
Or
were
we could
just
do this.
we were talking, the other day about. Oh, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
About how there wasn't nothing that was going to change me from hating hearing the term Christianity, the name Jesus, any one of the disciples, any character in the Bible. There wasn't anything that was going to make that appealing to me, but having an experience directly with God himself through prayer, through an emergency prayer for me. In my case, I was on my knees like crying out for answers because I just found out about our government being satanic and Freemasonic and just run by Luciferians. But anyway, there wasn't anything that was going to make Christianity appealing to me besides a visit with the Holy Spirit, which I didn't even believe in before. I didn't even know existed. But now, I don't mind the word Jesus, the name Jesus. In fact, I love it. And I like that. But that's miraculous. That's a miracle right there, going from...
Yeah, the first time I was ever on there, I'm embarrassed to say that I was embarrassed to say his name.
Yeah.
Which he
yeah.
even says, if you're not embarrassed of my name, I will not be embarrassed of yours when on Judgment Day.
Right.
Which I now firmly believe. I've now seen enough predictions in that book. We call it a book. It's really a terrible name for this. It is a bunch of books. In fact, it's 66 books, and it's written by 40 guys in 3 different languages. They were in different epochs, different continents, and they couldn't refer to each other as some of these books were written together. There's another one of the ways that the structure of the book, it becomes self-evident that it was supernatural, where each guy,
They were too far away to have spoke.
no, they weren't able to communicate with each other.
No, and then you
No
see the
cell
hieroglyphs
phones.
and everything on the caves all over the place, and they're all so similar, and it's like,
There's just something
Aliens.
there's something to
Aliens.
Christianity. Even though I did not want
It's
to
aliens.
even, I wanted any other god to be
Same
the
here.
god that I was gonna worship besides Yahweh, because I had my issues with the Old Testament too. I was militantly trying to educate people about how totally messed up all the animal sacrifices were and all the Levitical, Deuteronomical laws of, not collecting twigs in the forest on the Sabbath and whatnot. But all I'm saying is that stuff falls into place when you delve deeper into it. And Christianity is a religion that is so worth delving deeper into. I mean, it's worth it to study all religions, but there is something about the man Jesus. There is
Yeah, look, I'll be honest.
something
And
to
I'm
the
kind of like,
reality
this is where
puzzle.
I think I am with Eric, because I was searching for the truth. I mean, once 9/11 opened my eyes, and then that led to the Federal Reserve and the CIA and JFK and all these, it just kabam, like all of a sudden I'm looking at the world differently. I didn't want the Bible. I mean, if the Bible's true, and it did, it messes up your dating life, because it messes up a lot of all the things you used to love. You also, I naturally started to dislike them, abhor them even. And the things that I used to hate, I now love. And that still is happening to this day.
Are part of it right and wrong? Like, when you're kind of doing something shady, but you do it because it's who you are. In your personal self, we're all a little shady. We got our quirks.
Yeah, we all have good and evil in us. I agree with you there.
I think a younger, because I wouldn't say that I'm religious. It's not like I'm.
I agree with you. Religion is
where I
Spiritual.
judge. Well, I'm spiritual. I know that I got to walk with the man, and I have personal conversations. Most people now, when you see them at the grocery store, right, and people are talking to themselves, you don't even
you're
think
like,
of
I get it.
Yeah, well, no, because you
I
figure they got
got you.
Bluetooth and they're on their cell phone,
Right.
right? Or if you're in your car talking to yourself, you know what I mean? You're singing to the radio, something like that, right?
Right.
Well, mine, that's where I have, I talk to him when I need to. You know what I mean?
Same.
And it's. And I know when I'm not doing the right thing is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So as someone who's learning, that's a tough part. When you break through and know that, damn, I know this is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, that lady didn't charge me that $5. I really could just walk out and take this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She
No,
didn't
I think
charge
we're
me.
all built with
But
this innate morality. And where I am today, and I love that we're going to be debating this, not on necessarily on this
That's right.
episode, but the fact that I now believe we were created literally out of the dust, and the breath, God's breath, literally injected life into everything. I really believe that now. And I was going somewhere with that too. Why is my
But is God an alien?
But that's the
well,
ultimate
yeah,
question.
actually, he's
such
not
a
from
risk for
Earth.
you.
He made Earth. So, yeah,
Right.
he is an alien.
Yes.
In fact, one way to look at the Bible is it's a series of writings from a hyper-intelligent alien being that is our creator.
Force.
Yeah,
And,
alien to us
spirit.
in nature, but yeah, I mean, it's a force that we couldn't possibly ever imagine the true nature or the power, the majesty of our Creator. I mean, the Bible tells us it's just we're not even nowhere near the same league. I mean, so we try to imagine God as if He has these human characteristics because
Right.
that's kind of all we know.
Yeah,
but,
it's the only reference point you have other than a speaker.
yeah.
A speaker system, right?
Yeah.
If someone just talked to you over the radio, right?
Right. But for me to imagine that, I think the craziest part of waking up to spirituality in general and Christianity for me is where I went with spirituality, but just thinking that God, the creator of the known world, I don't want to say the universe because I'm a bit of a flat earther, but the creator of the
You're one of
entire
those?
world.
Oh, we'll get into
Yes.
that.
Oh,
Lost
they're
me,
gonna be. Wait, did you say awesome?
You lost me.
Oh no. Okay, we'll have a debate about
Yes.
flat Earth as well. But anyway, the most amazing thing about waking up to the fact that there actually does seem to be a lot of evidence that there's a creator. For me, realizing that the Bible says our creator gives a crap about what we do in our daily lives, and that can be a bad, scary thing, but it's also a really, really, really good thing because scientism tells us that we don't matter. You know, we're just random. We're
Just matter.
we're
There's give and
overpopulated.
take,
matter.
though, because when you realize that this set of books might be the truth here, you're now, because every list we ever make of our values, no matter what we really write, we're always number one in our own value system. Like in one way or another, my ego, my income, my family, my loved one, whatever. And this causes you to put something else above you. You got to acknowledge we're sort of owned. I mean, if I have a dog, okay, and I often equate the relationship that I believe God has with humanity as ones we have with dogs, which is, can a dog do anything for us?
Yeah.
What?
Love.
Relationship. That's it,
Yes.
right? It's funny, but that's what God said.
Protection.
That's what God says. He just wants love. He just wants relationship.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, what do you have to do with that? You have to wipe. You have to clean up after his pee and his poop. You got to take him out for walks. I mean, there's a lot of work on your part.
Yeah.
Okay? So sometimes people wonder, well, why would God do all this? Because I still try to fathom, why would Jesus Christ bother to come down, be on our timeline for 33 years, and then die this horrible death? I would have just let humanity go. I totally get it now. Because I used to read things in the Old Testament that turned me so far off of, the God, the creator God, the one of Abraham, Isaac, and where he would send, as the Jews are going through the desert from Egypt on their way to the promised land, he would say, all right, you go into that village and you kill everyone. You kill the women, you kill the children, you kill the cows, you kill everything. And I would be thinking, what kind of God? Where is your mercy, man? How would you do this?
Right.
But when you actually start to study what's in there, it makes total sense. I know exactly why he did it, and it was for our very own protection.
You mean the spilled seed?
20 till show or till break?
Done.
Oh, I was gonna take a break now, and then can we take a break?
Let's just go. Let's just keep going.
Whatever.
We're flowing.
Because I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Speaking of going, because I have
Yeah.
to get going. I have an appointment. All right.
Meeting in the ladies' room.
All right, look, the title for this first show is Could an Ancient Spiritual War Be Behind Everything? So this is, in a way, Eric, and I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at KJ, like out of the side of this eye. Because
Peripherals.
there's in a way, remember I said there's like a little court case theme here. So these are, in a sense, this is the prosecution's opening argument. All right?
Yeah.
We're not dealing with witnesses yet. We're not getting counterpoints. But basically, here's my thesis, or here's the idea of the show, and we're going to see where we are at the end of the year after, the case has been tried, because you guys are going to be the jury in a lot of ways, all right? You're also going to be the defense, too, all right? So, and you're supposed to represent everyone. I mean, I'm not regular anymore. I used to be.
Yeah.
You guys are
I'm the
still
average
regular.
Joe.
Yeah, exactly. This is who you're representing, both you guys.
Joe the
And
plumber.
actually, you guys, in a very good way, are not regular either. No one really is. But you are representing John and Jane Doe that is out in this world. And the questions you will have and the things that won't make sense, there probably is happening to thousands of other people.
I think
So
it's
that's
more
where I
than-
want you guys
it's more
to-
than thousands.
to pipe up.
We are the world.
And we have a talent
are
show
the
going on
children.
next week.
But hopefully we'll make Christians look a little less scary and judgmental. That's my hope. That's
I get the
my
judgmental
personal
thing.
hope.
All right, so I'm going to start with, I'm going to call you guys the ADAs. You're the assistant district attorneys here. We're the prosecutors. But does that thesis that there's an ancient spiritual war that's kind of behind everything going on in this world, does that fly with you guys?
It does. Yes.
Anyone?
Heck yes.
Okay. Now, when I
Yes.
say that to you guys, what is your reaction to that?
I haven't really delved into that
Yeah.
too much yet, so
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Okay. So you're not sold on it either way.
Convince me.
Do you believe in evil?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
evil lurks in the hearts of men.
And
think
how about
Stan
this?
Lee
Do
said
you,
that.
do you believe in karma?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Very much.
So you have the moral side, but like if I screw somebody over, it could come back to me.
For sure.
Do
And
you
it
guys
does,
actually
always.
Do you guys believe that there is a spiritual world with entities in it?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
You mean
Your sister's involved
Yeah, my
in
sister,
it.
yeah,
You're
my-
not sure.
Yeah, I'm not.
I
I'm not
do.
convinced.
I'm really
I've had experiences enough
I
to
wanna
know.
hear it.
yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have a couple guests on here. My sister can be one of them. But Razor Ray, we've talked about having him as a guest on this show, and I think that's imperative.
Yeah.
Because of the things he's been through, and because he's been to the other side. He's seen.
We
the
are
other side.
going to talk to a lot of people that have seen the other side. There are
Yeah.
many of
He
them.
did. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, every week we are 4 or 5, maybe bring a friend or two. We're a few people standing around a keg talking about the stuff you never really do end up talking about at parties.
Well, we're gonna have a keg, right? No, I'm just kidding.
After.
We'll have a
I'm
cocktail after.
joking.
A keg in here. Oh, you dog. Very
Oh.
Very jelly. All right, so
I'm off camera. I can do that.
So what we're talking about is, like, for me, my thesis is it was actually written in these 66 books. And it wasn't written because I originally had this idea that, a bunch of guys in the year 0 AD smoking cigars got into a room and kicked back their shoes and were like, all right, how can we screw up the world? And let's write some ridiculous story as a control mechanism to control some crowd.
I do think part of it is control. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
it is societal control. Especially
Well, that's
if it's
what
the
they
commandments.
want. I mean, when I refer to they, I am talking about this ethereal, very nebulous but
Government.
highly organized cabal of people. They're not the government. They do occupy positions of great power inside not just the American government, but pretty much all governments.
Yes.
And they're not just political figures. They're in our financial institutions. They're in the Fortune 2000. They're all over Hollywood. They're all over our news media.
They have weird shaped skulls.
They are in positions that influence society. All right? They're not going to be involved. They're not going to own a chain of golf retail stores or
Right.
plumbing supplies.
But they may be an angel investor.
But they might be involved in how fluoride gets into our water. Which, quick spiritual sidebar. You guys know what fluoride does to the body?
Yeah.
What does it do? From what
It
you learned?
actually slowly poisons you, doesn't it?
It makes you dumber,
Right.
slowly poisons you, and it's interesting because
It's a binder.
you know where the first fluoride city was? Right in the state.
Detroit? No, Michigan.
No, it was
Okay.
it was either Kalamazoo or what's the other
Grand
one?
Rapids.
Grand Rapids. It was one of those two.
Dow Chemical.
Right after World War II. Right after the German company Farben, IG Farben,
IG Farben.
which it's ironic, but a company that helped kill millions of people is still in business today. I just find that. And so
Most
is
of them are, aren't they?
Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah. And GM.
And Henry
and
Ford. And
Yeah.
you'll find that there's a common MO in the enemy. Is that is they play both sides
Don't
of
bomb the factories.
conflicts. So they're not on the Americans or the Russian side. They are playing each other. They actually want war. They want the planet depopulated. Now, they want it, they believe, because that's better for the planet because the planet's overcrowded. And
That's
they're
how they
going to
sell it.
fulfill their ancient destiny, which is to rule Earth. And that's how they're not like showing up to work every day with a lie on their mind. They really believe they're doing good and that they have been anointed by something bigger than they, which they have. This is what took me. It was the 8th or 9th guy that's sitting here saying, no, we actually interface with demons. Roger Moore, no. And that's when it hit me back in 2011. In that moment, I'm like, oh my God, all these people that claim to worship Lucifer. I'm like, why would rich people worship Lucifer?
Right. That hits you like a ton of bricks.
Why bother? I mean,
Who-
you
I mean-
got it. But
Yeah, who would have thunk
That's
it?
how
the
you got it.
relationship wasn't. It wasn't. It was correlated, but it wasn't. But it was causal, not just correlated. Meaning the reason you're wealthy, usually, not always, because God's at work in the world too. The reason that you find that level of success, I'm talking about billionaire level, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Beyonce level. I'm not talking about, Hootie and the Blowfish level. But I might be. It's hard to know where the heart
Right.
of any. But at that level, you really can't enter those levels of our world without.
Sacrifice.
Yeah. And Satan's a counterfeiter, and he, just like God offered up his son as a sacrifice, he has been asking for child sacrifice throughout the beginning of time. And it's funny, but here we are, flash forward to now, and we certainly in the U.S. see it in the form of abortions, which we were all pretty much born into the Roe versus Wade. But this was a big deal because we're now killing something. And I used to be totally pro-choice. Woman's
Me too.
body, she decides. It's not a life form yet. I completely do not. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm completely flip-flopped.
Yeah.
You'd asked about, what's good, what's evil. Here's an example I learned from Aaron Russo. You guys know who Aaron Russo
Yep.
is? He
Mad
was
as
the
hell.
producer of the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. He was befriended by Nicholas Rockefeller. Again, there's a very close tie between Hollywood and the Illuminati. And there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of ex-Hollywood heavy hitters that come out saying exactly how demonic this is. And you will also notice child sacrifice. It's not just happening in the form of abortions in this world.
Child trafficking,
Look at,
pedophilia.
I live in a town of 10,000 people. We've had about 5 strange child deaths in my lifetime. Okay? So that's 10, 20,000 people in that period of time. 4 or 5 like strange child deaths. You go to Hollywood, there's about 10,000 people whose name would be familiar to you.
Right.
From the Audrey Hepburns to the Lucille Balls, you name from the beginning of Hollywood to today. Okay? But you look at how many of them have lost a child. Statistically, it is so ridiculously higher. I mean, this is magnitudes of significance higher than a normal subset of the population because it's about a 20,000% increase.
Wow.
You did
It's
the math?
almost 1 in 10. Yes, I did.
You mean
I
suicide
did the
or
math.
deemed suicide or just that they've
Random
lost a
acts
child?
of-
This is it.
knows?
You can't know all of them because some of them may be just, not evil. But the number of them that have lost a child, Mike Tyson, John Travolta, I mean, it's
Cosby.
unending.
Wow.
Who?
Cosby. Didn't his son get shot years ago? And I believe
Jordan's dad got shot. Some
Jordan.
people,
Well, that's because he was
Jordan's dad.
gambling.
maybe, very possibly. But the number of families that are missing, and it's usually the oldest son.
firstborn.
The numbers are it's ridiculous. That alone, there should open your eyes. It's something's going on. Doesn't mean you can tell what's going on with an individual person.
One question before we get out of here: have you had any lift of the negative since Mr. and Mrs. Bush have passed on this year?
What do you mean lift of the negative?
Like almost like a sigh of relief.
The air is clear.
Yeah, I hate to be like that. It's a president, you know.
These guys aren't. They're all puppets. At the end of the day, it's just a puppet dying. The puppeteer is still here.
That's
He-
a great
That was
way
a
to
good
put it.
analogy.
He took Jesus up to a mountain 2,000 years ago and said, "I'll offer you the whole world right now." Now, flat Earth, he was able to see the whole world in one viewing. I don't
Curious.
know. Okay, but whatever.
Curious.
And I'm not.
Me and Eric will have a smackdown later.
Some
about
people
the
think the
planet.
place is flat. Some think it's round. Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks it's pear-shaped. And I don't know exactly where I am, but you can read the Bible both ways on this one. So Satan takes him up to this mountain, says, "Praise me now, and I'll give you know the world is yours." And if that story's true, and I'm saying this for Eric's benefit, really, if that story's true, and Satan was in power 2,000 years ago, there's no way he lost it. We are talking about the second most intelligent entity that has ever existed. He was God's greatest creation. So I'm going to ask you guys to, in a sense, indulge me in a little bit. Roll with me on some of these assumptions, because we're going to be tying these together later on, where you're going to be like, oh. Because at the end of the day, and this is what blew me away, because the first 6 chapters of Genesis, effing ridiculous.
Hold on.
Oh, God
Joe
made
begat-
Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And we
There's a
took
lot to
rib
unpack
out of
there.
Adam. Oh, and then, some angels fell from heaven, the Watcher angels, and they mated with human women.
You don't agree with that? You don't agree with the Genesis 6?
Oh
Agree?
no, he's probably just saying like there's a lot to unpack.
Oh, yeah.
This
the
is
first-
why I agreed with Eric at one point. Like this is so
Oh, it
stupid.
sounds-
Yeah.
I
This is a
gotcha.
fairy tale.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes,
there
it
were
sounds-
giants, really?
Yes.
Giants were here on Earth. Okay, where are they now?
Yes.
And, okay,
I'm
all
with you
these-
now. Yep.
Really, God parted the Red Sea? Really? And all these Egyptian chariots got
Really?
trapped at the bottom of the Red Sea? But you know, it's interesting because 2 little things, just in answer to
Recently.
But I've seen
Whoa.
Red Sea.
There's problems in this place.
Yeah, dude. We need some sound.
Technical
That
difficulties.
is on
Off the
camera.
set.
It's on camera.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
yeah.
now that we've made a big deal of it, everyone.
We should clap when he walks
When he comes out, I'm gonna
Party on,
We
bro.
should.
So
Great, and I needed
we're
to
wrapping
use
this
that
up. 2 minutes.
fine. We have 5 minutes.
So there were little things that I discovered along the way that started to put this together. And I after a while, you just can't assign it to just random chance, aberration, accident. Because there's a guy diving in the Red Sea. And one of the things he finds, this was in the 1970s, 80s. Do you know what he found?
Chariot.
Not one chariot,
A whole
hundreds
row.
at the bottom of the Red. How the
Frick. Frick.
Yeah.
Frick.
I'm going to make a swear jar, and I'm going to be the guy that puts most money into it, and we're going to use that to always go towards our first
you smell
cocktail.
He was in the bathroom.
Gosh.
I can't.
Could you guys dwell on this anymore?
You smell.
No, but thanks for
Things ain't
waving
right.
it.
Oh, jeez. Oh, criminy.
Yeah, you should have been in the car when we drove past that poop
Sewage.
factory by my house.
There's a
And
hygiene, sanitation treatment plant. Yeah,
you have to say something, otherwise the other person in the car is sure that you did it,
Oh
and the
my
other person
gosh.
thinks you did. Because
Oh,
when there's
no.
only 2 people in a car.
What,
I
over
mean,
the bridge on 75?
It smelled
This
evil.
was right before you get onto Gross Seal on
yeah.
Jeffrey, whatever. So these things I thought are ridiculous. Okay, the Red Sea, giants, the Nephilim, the flood. Okay, these are allegories, obviously, and I'm not interested in myths. I like facts. But the funny thing is since then, I've heard from no less than, the number's over 100, but it's not 200, archaeologists, for instance. They all have a very common story. They're digging or looking for something. They come across giant bones.
Yep.
Same thing happens every time. You do that, you're calling the trusted authority figure. Who's that? The Smithsonian.
Yep.
It's
The
your
church.
professor at college who then calls the Smithsonian. Next thing you know, I've had so many people tell me this story, it's mind-boggling.
Military, right?
Military shows up, cordons the area off, gathers the bones, they're sent to the Smithsonian. lost forever. The only thing that are left now from time to time are some bones. And those pictures, Eric, that I was going to have you flip on screen.
Next week.
We'll do it next week. Those are articles from the New York Times going back to the 1800s where it is article after article after article after article, hundreds of them, right out of the New York Times microfiche, like out of their, this is their library of the photographs of their papers.
Right.
These are not these are not created images. These are photographs of their headlines. Hundreds of articles, just from the New York Times alone, talking about how giants have been found all over the United States, the Americas, on all the continents. They were underneath the mounds. They were the mound builders. And we're not talking
Ohio.
I'm not talking 7-footers. Like some of these guys
I've
went up to
seen it.
20, 30 feet.
Yeah.
Even Lewis and Clark talked about the giants that they came across while they were exploring the West. Abraham Lincoln talked about it. Now, something happened in 1905. We gave our education system literally over to the forces behind the Federal Reserve, who at that point only had the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. 8 years later, they've had the whole Federal Reserve of the United States. Next week, we're going to talk about the power that comes with that. Because you're going to see no president. There is no guy that can save this. There's nothing you can do. You'll understand. You'll understand when they say all our tax dollars just go to pay interest. So these guys got behind our education system, the Aaron Russo story, to put closure on it. Nick Rockefeller of the Rockefeller cabal befriends him. Aaron Russo is he's a player in Hollywood. I mean, he made Trading Places.
Yeah.
I mean, he did some other movies,
Nightclub
The
owner.
Rose, that.
Owned a nightclub in Chicago.
Wow.
And so Nick Rockefeller starts talking to him about stuff. And take your time, but hurry up. Wake up and go back to sleep. So
It's supposed to
Aaron
be
Russo
private,
comes
guys.
out and divulges this story about Nicholas Rockefeller. And is so common in cases like this, Aaron Russo would be dead later that year.
Yep.
But in 2007, he came out on a live interview, on a recorded interview, and said, all right, here's what happened with Nicholas Rockefeller. 11 months before 9/11 happened, he said there's going to be an event in New York. And we're going to use it to
Take liberties.
create terrorism. So we can send our armies to the Middle East because we've got to convert Libya, Syria, Iraq, Iran, etc., Lebanon. We got to change their banking systems to a central banking system. Because right before 9/11, there were 10 nations that did not have a central banking system.
And they wanted their gold. Oh,
And
I'm
a lot
sorry.
of other things,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a different story.
But the funny thing is, all the nations they talked about were nations that I perceived as our enemies. Now, there's only 3 nations today that do not have a central. We're down to 3. We are 3 nations away from world domination. Any guesses at who those nations might be?
North Korea.
Russia,
Netherlands.
North Korea,
North Korea. Who's our other big enemy?
Iran.
Russia.
Middle East, Iran.
Antarctica.
Russia.
And it so happens that Cuba is,
Yeah, they're on their way.
and they've sort of been an enemy of ours since the Kennedy days. Bay of Pigs. So Nicholas Rockefeller said, he doesn't say what the event's going to be, and he said the end goal is we're going, and he says this to Aaron Russo, who is not a Bible believer at this time. He's like, our goal is to get everyone chipped,
Yep.
which is how funny, because 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ told John, who wrote the book of Revelation, that in about 2,000 years, after this other crazy thing happens, which is the nation of Israel gets regathered. Okay, that's going to be impossible by itself. And I'm going to even tell you how that's going to... We're going to bring back the language. We're going to bring back the currency. You will not be able to walk to Israel. You'll only be able to arrive via Tarshish ships. You know, what does this mean? But how funny today, you cannot walk from any of Israel's surrounding countries into the nation. Walled off. The only way to get to Israel is by boat or airplane. And what airplanes? Well, who are the Tarshish? Well, the Tarshish are a tribe that ended up moving to the UK. And what became of the UK? And the Bible even said Tarshish and all her little lions. Well, the United Kingdom gave birth to the United States. I mean, their kingdom was that South Africa, Australia, Japan. These are all the allies of Israel today. How funny. And those are the only people that are allowed to land in Israel. Yet another prediction made 2,000 years ago. These start to pile up.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question is were there really, I mean, could we really have been created? Were there really giants? What happened with the flood? And we're not going to talk about these things on a biblical level. We're going to look at them scientifically, because that's where the rubber meets the road for me.
Yep.
I'm not like looking to
I'm
fill
ready.
some hole.
Okay.
Strap
All
it
we
on.
got to do is
Strap it on.
have
Strap it on, let's
open
roll.
mind. All right, so to close the opening arguments of our first episode, anything else anyone would like to add about anything? Question, thoughts? You guys see what we're going to be
I'm
doing?
excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'll keep my
We've
questions
gotten
for
some.
next
We've gotten
time.
some comments on the Facebook Live that I was doing, and a few of the ones on David on the mainstream too. Our good friend Jen says hello to everybody.
Hi,
What's up,
Jen.
Jen?
Jonathan Palmerville's checked in from Brightmoor. Said Brightmoor's listening.
Awesome.
A few other people chimed in. So it's not bad for a first show.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, we
some
didn't
technical
promote it on. We're
difficulties.
going to start to promote it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a work in progress, folks. Give us
Yep.
4 or 5 weeks, and you guys, it's going to be a seamless,
Top of the food
amazing.
chain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Even if we trip over ourselves, I'll make this promise. Every week we will paint at least one dot, one little nugget on this big white canvas. And my goal is by 45 shows within a year, we will have painted enough dots so that you can look back and see what it. Even
bunch of
some
dots.
dots are
A
black. You
bunch
might
of
not
dots.
even believe some. But if you stand away, that's okay. If we can fill enough, you will still see the picture that's on this puzzle.
Sweet.
But that's what we're going to be doing, is we are going to be putting together the most complex puzzle in human history, if you ask me.
So exciting.
It's going to be fun.
Right on.
Yes.
And
Awesome.
thank you, Jimmy.
Very nice to meet you.
put
Thank
together.
you.
We will be back
Yes. Thanks
next
to whoever
week.
was watching.
Very cool.
Next week, the 401 show. You can start checking our
And we'll
website.
be on at 6 p.m.
6:01 is our
6:01.
official starting time, because I'm always late.
Really?
Yeah. Just
No.
get
Good.
used to it. We all have our thing. That's mine. At least you already know what mine is. You're going to make
I'll
me
be
find
here.
out what your guys'
Yep.
are the hard way.
Yeah, no,
Instead
I'm
of just
good.
saying it.
Yep.
I don't have any bad qualities
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually-
So far,
you
you
guys
were
are lucky
right.
to have me.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. I'm really glad to work with everybody.
Awesome.
Oh, likewise.
Yep.
This
This
is
is going to be a
fun.
great
All right,
show.
we're going next door to have a cocktail.
Stay tuned.
Next week, 401show.com at Cave Radio.
www.crbradio.com. Stay tuned for the
Polly.
Smash the scene.
Smashing
Smash the
Pumpkins?
scene.
Detroit Trouble playing tonight.
Oh,
Good
cool.
show coming in.
Nice.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
God bless, guys.
So good.
That's
Oh,
cool.
keep
That's
it
cool
on
that we
I
have
got a
that
piece.
bathroom. I'm going over there. I'm going over there.
You don't want to go in there.
Hell no. Somebody better
Fine.
wipe up the dookie marks on the toilet too. Make him go in there with some bleach. Gross.
That is why.
We could probably pick that up on the air.
I know. That's what I was thinking.